Hello, welcome to today's video. I hope you're having a wonderful day today, and if you're not, I hope this video can bring you a little bit of comfort. So obviously, if you read the title of this video, there's many reasons of why you might have clicked on it. You might be going through a heartbreak, you might be trying to get over one, you might just be a long time amazing subscriber of mine, an amazing blossom of mine, just trying to watch another video. Blossoms are what I call my subscribers. For any of those reasons, before we get into this video, I just want to preface that heartbreak comes in so many different forms. It could be a romantic breakup, whether you initiate it or the other person did. It could be losing a friendship. It could be the death of a loved one. Either way, I think heartbreak is just a form of grieving over a loss of another person or animal. There's so many different forms of heartbreaks, and the advice I'm about to give can be used for any of them kind of, but you do have to think of it in a different way. And the way I'll be describing them and in the timeline that I'll be describing them is kind of more so dealing for a romantic heartbreak, but again, they could be used for any of those scenarios I just explained. And as I describe these tips, tricks, things to keep in mind, they are going to be in order of like right when the breakup happens to gradually over time. So first, I want to say, whenever this heartbreak starts, what you really need to do in the beginning is to feel it and let it out. Listen to sad music. This is when you gotta turn on your Olivia Rodrigo playlist and drive in the middle of the night, windows rolled down, music blasting. This is when you pick up journaling and you start writing your feelings down, reflecting on what happened, what the other person did, why they did it. Take accountability for your own actions too. And this is when you try to turn your tragedy into a work of art, in my opinion. Get cathartic with it. Take up kickboxing. Do anything that helps you release this emotion. And I have a quote on my phone, like up here. I think I showed it in my last Big Sister video, and how you feel the feeling but don't become the emotion. Witness it, allow it, and release it. That's honestly the biggest tip I can give, is just to feel the hurt. Listen to sad songs. Talk to someone. Talking to someone is so important, and I want to make a whole separate video on how to be a supportive friend for situations like this. But it's important that whenever you're talking to a friend, you tell them what you want them to do. Do you want them to give you advice? Do you want them to just sit there and listen to you vent? Do you want them to give you a distraction, which I'll talk more on later? Do you want them to make you laugh? To just sit with you as you cry? To watch a movie with you? It's so important, and I learned this from my friend Campbell, but it truly makes it easier on both parties, your friend and yourself, when you know how you want them to help. Because it's so frustrating whenever you just want to vent, you just want to get these feelings out, and then they're trying to almost lecture you. And so it almost makes both parties defensive and argumentative, because you don't know, because your friend doesn't know how you want them to help, because you didn't communicate that. So I think during this time, communication's key. Where I got most of this like epiphanies, and where I learned most of this from, was from a big heartbreak I went through around 2 or 3 years ago now. And my friend is going through a very similar one, and I remember for so long she would tell me she felt so bad for always talking to me about it. She's like, I feel like I should move on by now, and I just feel bad always telling you about it. I'm like, no, like, please tell me. I never had someone that I could talk to when I was going through my heartbreak, so I want to be that person for her. And so I think if you're going through a heartbreak and you're with your friend, it is important to understand that some friends may get annoyed in a sense, where they love you and they don't want to see you hurting anymore, where they want to see you move on because this person did hurt you, or this loss is still hurting you, and they just want you to be happy again. And so I think it does take a bit of understanding that it's just because they love you and because they don't want you to feel this pain anymore. I'm not saying that they should lose their patience or have an attitude or whatever, or that they can't be a good friend and sit there and listen, but I think it takes understanding from both parties, so just be a bit mindful of that. But again, early on, you just got to get it all out. Get it out. Do not hold it in. And I wrote a note saying, like, you need to grieve the loss of who you were. Who you were in that relationship, who you were with that person. I think that's the biggest thing that comes with heartbreaks, is that the idea that I'm never going to be that person again. I am who I am because of them, and now they're not in my life anymore. And that's okay. That's okay. And it doesn't need to be a comparable thing like, oh, now that they're not in your life, you're going to just turn into this horrible human being. No, like, the way I think of it is like a flower you could say is pretty, and you could call a young lady pretty, but it doesn't mean one is better than the other. It doesn't mean one's prettier than the other. You can't compare them. So who you were in that relationship, that's who you were, but it doesn't mean you can't also become this other amazing person with someone else, or having a different future or different path. And it doesn't make one version of yourself better than the other. It just means you've changed and grown, and that's what we should all do as people, as tough as it is, I know. And before I go on, I want to clarify, people are always going to tell you time heals all wounds, and let me tell you that is BS. Because yes, over time wounds can heal, but time itself does not heal wounds. Correlation does not equal causation. What heals wounds is cleaning it out, disinfecting it, letting it air out, and then wrapping it up. That's what cleans wounds. That's what heals wounds. And then over time, your body does its job, and it slowly fixes it, and then slowly moves on. But time itself, if you got a cut in the leg and you don't clean it and you don't put a bandage on it, it's gonna grow infected and it's gonna get worse. So it's honestly BS to just assume everything gets better, because it doesn't. You need to work for it. You have to work at least a little bit for it to get better. As I mentioned earlier, it's important to have distractions. And so as much as it's important to feel your emotions, don't let them overpower you. Don't say, oh, well, I'm sad, so I'm always gonna be sad. Like, let me just be sad. At a certain point, you need to start picking up your healthy habits again. At a certain point, you need to start taking a shower, washing your hair, doing yourself up, and you have to start moving on. And the best way to start is just distracting yourself. Forget for a little bit. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you evil or whatever for just trying not to think about it. And so I wrote, like, listen to a bit more upbeat music. Listen to hopeful music that makes you want to move on. Even if you don't feel hopeful that you can move on or that you ever will move on, fake it until you make it. Or listen to some music that makes you feel like a baddie, that makes you feel like you can fall in love again, or you will meet someone else, or that you can move on from this, right? This is when you really need to lean on your friends and kind of just forget for a moment. Put on a comfort TV show that makes you ignore whatever's going on. Watch some rom-coms again. Listen to some love songs. Okay, maybe not love songs, but listen to some upbeat music. Start redoing things you did with that old person, but with new people, and start making new associations with it. So an example is, say you had a loved one who passed away and you guys would always get ice cream at this one local ice cream shop. Take a friend and go. And if you want to talk about them, talk about them. If you don't want to talk about your loved one, don't talk about them. That's fine. But go and start slowly trying to recreate new memories, new happy memories with this place. So whenever you visit it, you're not always associating it with loss, but you're associating it with growth and new happiness. You used to go to the sunset with a boyfriend, and now you guys broke up. And so start going with friends, so then you don't always see a sunset and think of your ex. You think of the fun times you had with your friends, and just build new connections and new associations. And I think a little thing I want to mention here too is, don't invalidate your old relationship, because at one point you did care for this person and they did matter a lot to you, but don't invalidate your feelings saying, oh, I never really liked them, or they weren't even that good, or it wasn't even a real relationship, or it didn't even matter. Because at one point it did matter, and it might still matter to you. And so when you see these things, you see a sunset and you still think of them, don't think like, oh my gosh, that was terrible, why would I even date that person? well, you dated them for a reason. Even though it ended poorly, it doesn't mean it wasn't good at one point. And so it's important to just accept that at one point you did value that relationship, even though it didn't end off how you wanted it. The relationship ended and it hurts. And you can still grieve that loss and still be sad over that loss, but still appreciate the good times that you had with them. And then also, it's important that whenever you recognize intrusive thoughts like that, to just stop them in their track. Like, oh, he never really loved me, she never loved me, or I'm never gonna fall in love again, I wasn't even good enough, it was all my fault. Taking accountability is important, but it's also important to be realistic that you probably will fall in love again if you want to. That it's not all your fault, and that your worth isn't defined by how much another person loves you, and just your worth isn't defined by how successful this relationship is, right? And so it's very easy, I know for me at least, that whenever I'm sad, I start to spiral and fall down like a hole where intrusive thoughts come up, and I'm just sad about everything, even things aren't related to why I was originally sad. And in those moments, you really just gotta tell your intrusive thoughts, halt. Listen, I've been quoting that Wall-E scene, I'll put it up, like it is so funny. Halt. Sorry. Just see, like, it's good to have a little laugh, and remember that you can laugh and smile, and that the pain you're feeling right now isn't going to last forever, as long as you take little steps every day to just get better and to do better and to be in a better place. And also, it's important to remember, closure and healing looks different for everyone. Some people are going to move on from a relationship in a month, others will take a year. And that doesn't make one better or worse. It doesn't mean one valued it more than the other. It just means everyone processes things differently. And you shouldn't beat yourself up over it either. Like, oh, how could they move on faster than I can? Why am I still not over this? Why am I still thinking about this? It's not a bad thing. It might take a while. It might take years to move on. And as long as you are mindful and you're trying to move on, and just remind yourself that you can do better, you will do better, and little by little move on, like it's fine. It's fine. Everyone's hurting at least a little bit over some pain in their past, and it's okay that it hurts a little bit. Even if you don't think about it, even if that tiny bit is a tiny violin size bit, it's okay. It's okay to take a while. And as I'm giving these advice too, like, oh, do this and do this and then, like, remember, this is a roller coaster. You're gonna have some good days, you're gonna have some bad days, you're gonna think you're over them, and then something's gonna trigger you, and then you're not. And that's okay. Everyone gets off the roller coaster at different points. And that's okay. I'm just here to tell you that your feelings are valid, and it's okay to be upset. It's okay to feel pain. It's okay to want to move on from pain. It's okay to be happy, and you will love again, and you will move on from whatever this thing is. And speaking of healing and moving on, something I learned from Christine from Suburb Talks is that there's 2 stages or 2 segments of healing. One is something that we do by ourselves. Whenever we are heartbroken, we start to tear ourselves down, again, with those intrusive thoughts. And it's important to heal yourself by letting your feelings out, distractions or whatever. The second part is what you do with people. Say you had a big heartbreak and now you're talking to someone else. It's how well you've healed and moved on from that. And I think it's just important to keep that in mind. Because I know there was a time where I was like, oh, I think I'm doing so well forgiving and moving on. And then I see the person again in public and I'm like, okay, no, I'm not. Like, I'm still hurting. And so I'm just saying this to validate and to remind you that, again, it's a roller coaster. You're going to have highs and lows. Don't beat yourself up like, gosh, I thought I was doing so much better and now I'm not. Like, why am I so sad over this? Why does he still bother me? And that's because when you're alone, you might be healed. You might just be fully over it. But then when you see them in person, when you see them in person, or when someone else reminds you of them, a song reminds you of them, and it still hurts, that just means you're still doing a bit more healing, and that's okay. And that just takes work, and it takes time, right? It's not gonna be done in a week. It might not even be done in a month. It's just a work in progress. Make everything in your life like an era. Like, I'm in my healing era. I'm in my recovery era. And it's okay. And as you're moving on too, I want to say, try to flirt with people. Try to get a rebound. Nothing serious with anyone. I would say don't get in any serious relationships until you've like 2/3 healed, like self-healing, and halfway through like interpersonal healing. I would just say wait a bit before getting in a serious long-term relationship. But I think it's important that whenever you're getting over a romantic heartbreak, to remember that you can fall in love again. Start flirting with people and realize that you are that amazing, that you can meet new people. Or if you lost a best friend, go out and just start meeting new people, making new friends. And remember, you know what? I am a great person. I am someone who people want to be around. I am worthy of being loved. Things like that. As long as it's all consenting and communicated that, hey, I'm not looking for anything serious, have some fun, right? Like, there's a lot of fun stuff you can do being single too. And I mentioned this in my last Big Sister video, that you can have so much fun being alone. So just live it up a bit. Live it up. And again, this can fall under distractions, whatever, just to help you move on. Overall, I hope this video was helpful. I've gone through numerous heartbreaks in my life. I've gone through one too many heartbreaks in my life, and I've helped a couple friends get through their own heartbreaks. So this video is just a small accumulation of all the advice I feel like I've ever said at one point to someone else or to myself, or heard at one point. And so I just hope I was able to help someone else who's grieving the loss of a friend, loss of a loved one, loss of a romantic partner. And we're all a team, we're all in this together. And no, I have not seen High School Musical. But other than that, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Comment down below other Big Sister type videos you want me to see, other questions that you have and you might want me to answer and get my take on. Let me know if this was helpful, and if you want someone to talk it out with, talk it out in the comments down below. I'm sure the Blossom community is very supportive of one another. But other than that, don't forget to check out my description box down below for all my wonderful social media. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Remember, you are smart, you are kind, you are important, and I hope you have a wonderful day today. Because your friend doesn't know how you want them to moved on, and it's how, like, Happy by, is it Pharrell Williams? No, by Pharrell? I don't know, just listen to some upbeat music. Can't stop the feeling. I don't know, I'm cutting all this out. I'm here to just tell you that I'm surprised I was able to get that much advice out. Remember, you can do great things. If you need a motivational speaker, I am here for you. Of course, I could probably do a bit more eloquently if I had more time, but this is good. Stop intrusive thoughts.